Hey everybody. I'm going to go over two lecture slides right now, Labs 3 and Labs 4. Lab 3 is focused on gravity and adding the component of gravity. And Lab 4 is focused on collision and how to manipulate collision with objects. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the slides. So what is a component? Components are able to be added onto game objects. These are things like colliders, rigid body, animators, meshes, scripts. These are all different components that I can add to an object. Colliders let me make things hit each other. So if I'm in Minecraft, if I walk into an object, it's not going to just let me pass through. It's going to collide with the block. Rigid body, it adds physics to it. So in this case, we're going to be adding gravity to it. Animators help animate the object or make the object move around in its same position. Meshes let you see the objects and let you texture the object in different ways. Some of the classes I've seen that I've been able to texture a sphere with a Hello Kitty image. And then scripts, these are things that we can write actual code to create behaviors of objects. So we're going to go ahead and add the rigid body component to our game object. I'll show you in the tutorial in a second, but we'll add a rigid body to the object. The way we do that, if this is our Unity screen, if we have some game object on the left here that we've already dragged into our empty space, we can add a component. This is going to be able to add that rigid body. Under 2D physics, we're going to select that. We're going to go ahead and click on rigid body, and I'll show you this in a second as well. This will then add a new little box here, this box being the rigid body component. We have gravity, and this is the gravity scale. We can adjust that, 1 being the maximum speed that gravity pulls down at, and anything in between 0 and 1 being some decimal that decreases the amount of gravity scale. So the lab itself, you've already created a clock in Lab 2 of different images. You're going to have them fall at different rates. So let's go ahead and just do that right now. On my screen, I have this beautiful asset, Fat Jacob back in middle school that I had a fat filter on. There's my beautiful face. Oh, great. And I can take this object, I can resize it, whatever. And on the right here, you can see that I can add a component 2D physics. I don't know how easily you can see that, but we're going to add this 2D physics filter, rigid body. Now, the slides don't have this, but under body type, we're going to keep that as dynamic. We can change it to static. We can change it to kinematic. Static means it won't change. Kinematic will add kinematic effects to it, but we want dynamic making it be able to move. We then can take this gravity scale and slide it different places. We can also type in a number here. I can put like 0.5. I can put 1. And if I hit play here, my Fat Jacob should be able to move. I can change that gravity scale if I select my object again to, if we try 5, it shouldn't go any faster. I think 1 is the fastest. Oh, it does go faster. Look at that. Never mind. You can jump to, I guess, let's try 100. Is it just going to fly off the screen? It's gone. We can go slower, so 0.1. That'll go nice and slow. We can also, someone showed me this today as well, we can go negative. So we can go to negative 0.5. And what will happen with that? Oh, starts floating. So we can change gravity given this rigid body. And we're going to keep our Fat Jacob object there for now. Now, back to our slides. That is Lab 3, where you're going to go ahead and take your objects and have them fall at different rates. Now, Lab 4 is going to add collision to it and add collision to different objects. So we've already gone over what components are, and we're going to add the collider component to this. We're going to add the box collider to our game object, and this will help it so that it can bounce around and hit things. When it hits another object that has a collider, both objects have to have colliders, then it will be able to bounce around. So on our same object, you can see we're going to add another component, 2D physics. And we're going to add that box collider, and I'll show you in a second. And he added a bunch of different images here, and I'll show you how we can do that. But we're going to be selecting the box collider. The lab itself is going to hopefully have things pinball and hit each other. So let's go ahead and check that out. I'm going to take this object. Let's go ahead and make another one so we can have it collide with it. We'll make him a nice little fat thing, and we'll rotate it not along that axis, but along the X. Is it X? X should go. No, X is wrong. It should be Y. Is it Z? It's Z? Let's go with 50. There we go. We'll go ahead and hit this. Now, on this object that I just copied, it still has a rigid body. I don't want it to move, so I'm going to make it static. It's just going to let it sit still. It's not going to move, but if we hit play right now, I should probably change the gravity scale on this one. Let's go ahead and make it 1, so it goes downward. You'll see that it just passes straight through it right now. The other thing you have to note and be careful of, make sure your Z, or the depth of your object, is the exact same on both your objects. If my depth of my object isn't perfectly the same, say if my object's over here, it'll fall and not even be able to hit that object. So we have to make sure that those objects are on the exact same depth of my view. And you can do that easily by checking the position of the Z-axis. Both of mine are 0, so that's fine. Now, like the slide said, we can add the collider component to this. So let's go ahead and select this guy. It has 2D rigid body on it. That's perfectly fine. We want it to be able to move. And we're going to add under the 2D physics, we're going to add the box collider. With this, we don't have to change anything. We can adjust the box collider, and you can see that there's this green outline around the object now. I think it's green. I'm colorblind. This green box is the collider. We can adjust this collider where we can make it bigger, but I like that it was surrounding my actual object. We can change its height as well, but I want to keep it the same. Now, for this object, we also have to add a collider. If it doesn't have a collider, let's go ahead and see what happens. It won't collide with it. So let's go ahead and add a collider to this as well. 2D physics, box collider. And if we see here, bam, we have some physics going on. So our one object has a rigid body that allows physics and gravity. Our second body, game object, doesn't, or has a rigid body, but it's static. But they both have colliders, where you can see the green outline. The collider is this entire object, and I can make my object change, and the collider will go with it as well. And that's basically it. The lab itself is going to have something ping-pong back and forth. And that's all. Thanks, everybody.